One way or another, everybody in the South Florida music scene either loved or hated Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids in the early 90s.
Enough to start the love-hate relationship that would make this one of the most controversial bands in the history of rock and roll.
This noise music, and I don't like it, but it's not my taste of music. This is, yeah, they play what they like and it works. And that's often been the case. I mean, Marilyn Manson, I didn't like Marilyn Manson, but they played here, the kids loved it, and it's happened, so.
A couple of gigs, a few practices, and already Mr. Manson's band was on shaky ground.
I was doing my own band at the time, Collapsing Lungs, with Perry, who was the original keyboard player in Marilyn Manson, and Zsa Zsa's spec. Zsa Zsa, like I said, never really wanted to be in Marilyn Manson. He's totally against anything remotely satanic or not really into the shock thing. He's kind of a low-key, mellow guy.
Hello there.
Perry?
Yes. So when this interview came up, you know, he's got his things going on in his life now. I guess he didn't want to stir up his past.
But it was on shaky ground that Brian Warner would spawn Marilyn Manson.
So Marilyn, why don't you introduce your kids to us?
All right, I'm Marilyn Manson. I'm on vocals.
Hey, I'm Gidget Gine, bass playing, body piercing, and skin peeling.
I'm Daisy Berkowitz, guitar.
Hi, I'm Dunaway Gacy, and I'm into keyboards, and I really like little boys, too.
I even saw them. They didn't even have a live drummer at the time. In place of the live drums was a playpen, and there was some chick in there. They were feeding her raw eggs, like in the movie Pink Flamingos.
It was pretty cool. They just never had a drummer, and at the time, the whole being a band thing was, I mean, Ministry just came out, Nine Inch Nails just came out, so people were gradually dealing with bands that didn't have a drummer. But Brian knew that he had to get a drummer eventually. It just added.
So I remember they had talked about getting a drummer, and it wasn't soon after that that they got one. And it made a dramatic difference. I remember the first time I saw them with the drummer, and it was really cool. I mean, it was just a lot more energy. And I was kind of worried that it would really change the sound a lot. And the sound evolved.
Fred, I don't know his Marilyn Manson name, but is it Sarah? Sarah Lee Lucas. I was in a band with him before he was in Marilyn Manson, and he always had leg problems. I guess he had some football injury, and he had a muscle disease in his legs. So he had always a problem, I thought, keeping time with his kick drum. So after we left the band, Brian was talking about getting Fred into the band, and I had discussed with him, you know, the problem that Fred had, and that he was a good drummer, but, you know, this would be a problem, I thought. And Brian, I guess, didn't really think so until years later, when, you know, I guess his legs got worse and he wasn't able to keep up with the Manson standards, so he was let go, I heard, not too pleasantly.
The decade started with the first human drummer joining the lineup of the Spooky Kids, and for the Reverend Manson, there was no turning back. The band attracted a following, and from there produced various self-released cassettes, including Big Black Bus, Lunchbox, and Grist to Line, to name a few.
I think they saw an opportunity and ran with it. It's the American way.
This opportunity just happened to lie in Brian Warner's own backyard. The South Florida music scene was ripe for something new, something with an edge.
Back then, the club scene in South Florida was so different. There were so many live venues. There's not a lot of support down here in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. You know, and Miami's more of a tourist thing. They rather go to a house club or a techno club and dance. They don't want to see a live band. You know, they get more out of dancing and, you know, rolling, I guess, tripping on ecstasy than supporting a live act, which is kind of unfortunate.
So the stage became the backdrop for the wild and outrageous dramas that set this band apart from the others.
Chicken livers and chicken feet being stomped on on the stage, which was carpeted, then around the room on the dance floor, and in corners and crevices that you could never get it. And of course, that night, a Haitian crew, cleaning crew for the nightclub coming in, and whatever bad voodoo, you know what I mean? Seeing chicken feet, they didn't want to mess around. So it was kind of like, you know, trying to convince them, it's just garbage. Clean it up, will you? Come on.
I guess I met Brian for the first time at Squeeze when I was bartending there. He'd come in all the time and sit in the dark corner and just sort of watch people. It took me by surprise how professional he was. The Easter show was actually my topless debut. I had never performed naked before or without a top or anything, and they had me tied to the cross. And even backstage, he's putting the grease paint on my nipples and doing the ab cuts like he does with the grease paint. And it was all business. It was all business. He made me feel comfortable. He could tell I was nervous about being naked in front of the home crowd.
They're very interactive with their fans.